So No Man's Sky just got one of the most interesting updates yet and a brand new expedition called Leviathan. This is basically Hello Games' own take on the roguelike genre with elements added in this expedition, tons of cool new rewards and different game styles, so we're gonna talk about that in this video. But I will say I'm quite impressed so far. By the way, the expedition literally started a few moments ago, so you have about 6 weeks to complete this. But it's totally going to be worth it. There's some really nice rewards here that you're going to want to aim for, including our very own organic frigate. We are that close to a full-on organic freighter, at least at some point. I'm hoping that this is going to be the case. It seems to spawn at the end of the expedition, similarly to how it did with the Mass Effect event from last year. And there's also a second one that you can use as a decoration in your base. It doesn't just stop there. We also get this really cool temporal starship trail. It does play a significant role here, and yeah, we are kind of stuck in a time loop, but I'm gonna explain that in just a little bit. Looks really dope. And finally, also a brand new cloak, among many other, well, cool rewards. But basically, yeah, if you played Deathloop or maybe Returnal the past year, you're kind of familiar with the genre. Essentially, you get to die a lot in these games, you get to lose some of that progress, but a lot of it is also permanently saved. And you don't just do that, you also need to die in order to progress the story, similar to Deathloop, for example. Even one of the early achievements in the expedition requires you to sacrifice your life to get a reward that is needed to progress further and get out of the planet to go, well, further into the expedition. So expect a lot of dying in this. And by the way, if you die, you don't need to start a new expedition. You just have to go back to the menu and continue from the expedition that has a, well, different save file over there that you can follow. But the gist of it is that travelers playing in Expedition 7 Leviathan are trapped in a time loop and have to recover memory fragments lost from the previous loops. And they look something like this. Basically, proc-gen technology. These are procedurally generated, so they are random each time, which means that your playthroughs will be slightly different every single time, since obviously the rewards will also be random. What's not going to change though is the story of the expedition. Yes, there is a narrative going on right here, and as players seek a way to unbind from the time loop curse, they will find a story-driven adventure at the heart of expedition number 7. Of course, following the trail of all previous iterations, absorbing memories, even investigating significant sites and working together with others will help us break the curse and exit that loop. But shattered memories all point towards an encounter with an ancient space creature, the Leviathan, that we've talked about and seen at the beginning of the video. It seems to be, yeah, kind of similar to how it was with Mass Effect Andromeda event from last year, when it was also kind of like the reason why we did all of that and what was happening in the background, though I kind of forgot what it was all about. But basically, this is either the problem or the solution to the time loop, so take it as you will. We're gonna find out at the end of it. I'm expecting it to be the solution, and yeah, the kind of cool reward that we're seeing with the ship spawning in the atmosphere once more and whatever is gonna happen after that. Still a bit disappointed that this isn't an actual freighter skin. I kind of got sick of the same layout we had for so many years for our freighters. I was kind of, you know, hoping that it's gonna be different this time around, but I guess Hello Games isn't ready yet to make that jump. But we are making small steps toward it, and eventually I think they will fully implement new skins for the freighters, and maybe, who knows, even cool interiors, though that will require a change in the layout and the base building inside of it. I am fully expecting this to be a max rank and likely better than the most of the stuff that you find on your own, kind of like Normandy did, and it was an amazing early on unlock to have, especially on new playthroughs. Now, I know what you're thinking, what about griefers? Obviously, during this expedition, and given the way it plays out, there's a lot of incentives for bad actors to ruin your playthroughs. Well, first of all, you can always turn off PvP and player damage in the menus, but there is a huge, or well, several huge incentives for the player base to collaborate, and that comes in the form of these research loops. Basically, once you lift off the starting planet, head over to Specialist Polo, you will notice that he gives you several of these loop researches, and basically you have to give in certain types of items that you find during these expeditions, and if everybody who plays through these expeditions gives them in, this will progress that bar over there at the top, which eventually will give us better and better rewards, especially in terms of those procedurally generated time loop technologies. This likely means that as we progress more and more into these 6 weeks, eventually even starting a new one will give you much better rewards than we have right now on day 1. Like, I'm literally seeing C-class and sometimes even gray ones. That's how basic they are right now, but I'm assuming later on we will see much higher ones like A-class, max rank, and all that kind of good stuff to make the expedition even easier. For example, one of the loop research missions wants you to get Somnal Dust, and in order to get that you need to head over to a derelict freighter, which on its own on normal difficulty and maybe even survival is not that difficult, but we're playing on permadeath, so yeah, that's likely going to mean you're going to have a pretty bad time, especially if you accidentally run into one of these egg-infested freighters like how it can often happen. But I'm assuming there's going to be easier ones where you don't have to fight anything and it's probably going to be a breeze. At least that's what I'm hoping for. There's other big incentives for you to jump straight into the expedition, even if you're a new player or returning one that hasn't played a normal one for a long time, and that's because very few of the things you do in a normal playthrough actually translate into what we're doing right now in expedition number 7, which is mostly centered around death looping, no pun intended. Essentially, you also get to start with one of these really cool solar ships recently added in the Outlaws update, so if you kinda want that and don't want to hunt for them or manually find them, yeah, you get these from the start. You also get a ton of upgrades along the way, many inventory expansion slots as you progress through the expedition and finish its achievements at a much faster pace than if you were to jump into a new playthrough. And you can always just continue from where you left, as at the end of these 6 weeks, yeah, this is going to be converted into a normal playthrough. And when I say normal playthrough, I mean one of the 4 difficulties. In this case, it's going to be survival according to the patch notes, but it might also be permadeath, so I'm not really sure. The expedition is permadeath, but here it says it gets converted to survival mode. Still pretty good, you can get some really awesome items, and it's going to make things easier from that point on if you want to progress past the expedition. And obviously you can always pick off the story missions from where you left, but still get these really awesome achievements in the meantime. Anyway, this is pretty much with the new expedition. Obviously, I'm expecting this to just be something in between whatever big update follows next. Totally expecting that in the second half of June, but it remains to be seen. In the meantime, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.